What if I told you that the design of your workspace may be quietly undermining your success more than your boss or your company's strategy? Research shows that poor design can reduce your productivity by as much as 20%. Yet, we often treat it like an afterthought. Now, you may be wondering, if workplace design really matters, why aren't CEOs and managers treating it like a strategic asset? Well, somewhere, pre-pandemic, many tech firms designed what we call cathedrals of innovation, based on this idea that spontaneous encounters spark big ideas. However, the lockdown shook that belief. As a result of the lockdown, many firm believers in this idea began to question whether or not physical work environments still matter. The answer we are finding is yes, post-lockdown. See, physical work environments aren't just passive containers. They are active forces that shape how we work, think, connect, and succeed at work. Physical work environments are tangible structural enclosures within which the core activities of a firm are carried out. And they affect much more than we realize. See, they are tangible enclosures that affect task accomplishment as well as your strategic resource position. That is, they affect how well and when work gets carried out, and they affect the intangible resources a firm has, and these two things play a role in your competitive advantage at a firm. So, to truly understand how physical work environments shape success, we need to think about them along three key dimensions. First is your aesthetics, which are the visual sensory cues in the work environment that define its aura. Then there's also the spatial configuration, which describes the layout of spaces and how rooms are arranged. Then there's the ambient factors that impact how comfortable we feel within the spaces. Let's briefly explore each of these dimensions and think about the small intentional changes we can make to make the work experience better for all of us. To do so, I'm going to share a quick story. See, many years ago, I received a surprising invitation to interview for a job. I wasn't really looking, but I thought, why not? It was in this super high-rise building, the kind you dream about working in as an ambitious child. It had these great big doors and this endless atrium. I walked in wearing my best skirt suit at the time and the most fabulous but uncomfortable heels I had. I walked to the elevator and climbed up. The moment the elevator doors opened and I stepped into the reception room, I made up my mind there and then that I was going to do everything I could to get the job. It was the most beautiful, elegant, inspiring, dark, but minimalist office reception I had ever seen. I thought, I want to come to work every day to a space like this. So I turned on the charm and made up my mind that I would do everything I could to leave that interview with a job offer in hand. So, what precisely made me change my mind about a look-see job interview? How did I go from, let's check the job out, to, I must either get this job or die trying? In split seconds. It was the look and feel of the space. I knew nothing about their pay, nothing about their benefits, nothing about sick days, paid time off, whether or not they matched pension contribution plans, the typical levers that HR professionals pull to convince job candidates. But instead, the look and feel of this space made me want to become a part of the company. This look and feel is what we call the aesthetic dimension of the physical work environment. They are the visual, sensory, design elements that define the aura of a space. Everything from the color palettes to the furniture choices to the artwork and the textures and how they all come together. However, aesthetics do much more than make a space look appealing. They also communicate. They tell us about you and what you are about, your vision and your aspirations. They reinforce an identity for you and for your firm. They can earn you valuable, intangible resources like legitimacy and credibility. They can also determine the quality of co-workers you get to recruit and retrain. A study using photographs showed that both prospective job applicants and seasoned professionals formed impressions about how considerate or controlling particular firms were. This means that the aesthetics of your workspace has implications for both your clients and your business partners. So, interestingly though, it also has implications for us as workers. See, personalizing your workspace can help you feel and develop a sense of belonging. It can, as research shows, that creating this sense of belonging helps you become more engaged at work. It helps you choose to stay longer because you feel like a part of the organization. Now, this is the impact that aesthetics can have. Not just influence the impression that your clients have, but also inspire loyalty and productivity from workers. How can you make your workspace aesthetics work for you? First, define your identity. What do you want your space to say about you? Second, personalize your space. Increase your sense of belonging at your workspace so that you're more willing to give the best that you can, if you want to. Third, use color and texture strategically. Vibrant hues in spaces where you want interaction and collaboration to occur. Softer hues in areas of focus. But getting your aesthetics right is only a part of the equation, because that can sometimes be overdone. To fully unlock your workspace's potential, you need to look at how your space is also configured, because layouts affect how people move and interact within a space. And for those of us who have been unceremoniously ushered out of your private office into a cubicle or a workspace open desk station in the last year or two, this is where you get to groan. But our conversation is going to go beyond the open plan debate today. Let me continue with that story and get you to where we're going, because I don't want to leave you hanging. See, a partner came into that reception area and took me into this classy, dreamy lounge. It was fabulous. It had this translucent, wavy wall that they somehow managed to install at an angle. And as a result of that, it was delightfully shapeless. It wasn't a rectangle, not a square, not a triangle or trapezoid. It was this delightful blob of a space that ideally required a glass of something in your hand to occupy. We chatted a little bit, and then he said he was going to give me a tour of the studio. He said all the right things that a young professional would like to hear. They were a flat organization. They were not hierarchical, highly collaborative, 21st century design firm, interested in tackling sustainability and the grand challenges. I believed every word of what he said until we stepped into the studio. One look at the layout, and it was evident that this organization was anything but flat. The hierarchy of the organization was fully embedded, solidly baked into the layout of the space. Partners had glass offices, while seniors had these spacious, large open desks. And then juniors were crammed into these central workstations, positioned so that the supervisors could see their screens fully. It was surreal. I had worked in truly flat and collaborative organizations where people talked about their dogs and what the dogs did and what they did over the weekend. And it was evident from this layout that this wasn't going to be the kind of organization that encouraged that. But I was already smitten with the reception room and the quirky, blobby room. So I accepted the offer. 3 weeks into that job, I made up my mind I was going to leave. Every single one of my suspicions derived from the spatial layout was confirmed. See, spatial configuration describes the layout and arrangement of rooms within a space, the dimensional attributes that inform how you move, how you interact, and how you collaborate within them. Spatial layouts can indeed spark casual conversations or create barriers. And there's more to it than the open versus closed offices, open plan debate that we tend to have. See, spatial configuration produces second-order attributes that actually determine how we experience spatial layouts, whether they are open plan or not. They can enhance or deter group territoriality. They can also affect the extent to which people are spatially proximal to each other. They can increase spatial density, and they can affect the level of privacy that individuals have, whether they are task, communicative, or visual. But beyond the open plan debate, spatial configuration can also influence our perceptions of status, fairness, equity, kind of like what I saw in this office space I just described. See, the external configuration of a firm's building can also affect the corporate identity of the organization, influencing how your business partners and your clients and even the wider community begin to view your organization. So, how do you apply this to your workspace? First, sit near people that you work with. It makes your work easier. Second, use shared spaces in a meaningful and strategic way. The informal areas, the kitchen, the atriums, use those for informal meetings, particularly the ones where you need to generate ideas. Lastly, achieve the type of privacy you want. Be clear whether it's visual, task, or communicative. Enhance group territoriality. Reduce individual territoriality. Increase spatial proximity, but make sure that density, spatial density, is reduced, or at least not above the standard requirements from your code book. But even the best layout can undermine the success of your workspace if the ambient conditions are not comfortable. And that brings us to our third dimension, which are your ambient factors. These are the unseen atmospheric characteristics that shape how we feel and think in a space. They include temperature, lighting, air quality, and noise levels. See, after the not-so-great ending to our story that I just shared, I feel compelled to tell you that physical work environment was the one space where I never had to bring in a space heater. You all know what we're talking about, right? We've all fought a thermostat war or two, freezer versus sauna. Now, while these might seem like minor details, research shows that poor ambient conditions can erode your cognitive performance by as much as 50%. In fact, ambient factors can be the difference between a space that energizes you and one that drains you. So, how do you improve yours? How do you ensure that you have an optimized ambient environment that boosts your focus and decision-making? First, bring nature indoors. Real or fake, it doesn't matter. They reduce stress. Get in plants and greenery. Put in paintings of nature. Research shows that they can support your cognitive performance. Next, adjust your lighting to match your natural rhythms. Use warmer tones in the afternoon to combat fatigue. Third, prioritize and advocate for good air quality. Such little changes can make such a big difference about the way you feel within your space. So, we've explored how the aesthetics of your workspace can inspire impressions and loyalty. We've also talked about how spatial configuration can affect behavior and organizational culture. We've talked about how ambient factors can impact your cognitive performance. But here's the bottom line. Getting it right on each dimension is crucial to your productivity. The spaces we work in are not just containers. They are active factors shaping our day-to-day experiences, our performance, and our satisfaction. for firm leaders, they are strategic tools that can affect task accomplishment and your strategic resource position. Two key components that undergird your long-term success. So, wherever you work, whether in the corner office or at the kitchen table, what small changes are you going to make today to enhance your work experience and make your space work better for you? Because the smartest workplaces aren't just designed by architects. They are shaped and created by users like you. Thank you very much.